It's really great to see so many people who care about this issue. And some of you I know are volunteers who work on this issue in your own communities. Some of you are members of the organizations represented on this call. Some of you are partners working with other groups. And some of you are elected officials who are actually moving policy through your legislative body. So thank you so much for everything that you do on this issue. We're excited to be here today. And again, my name is Emily Resch, and I am emceeing the event for today. I work with the Public Interest Network, which is a network of nonprofits that includes both the state PIRGs and Environment America and the state groups affiliated with Environment America. So it's a pleasure to be here today with all of you. And let's see, I think I was gonna wait till 2 minutes after to get started, just in case there's a couple of stragglers. So we'll get started in just a minute. But again, welcome. It's so nice to see you here today. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have a full panel today. Again, I just said this, but I'll repeat myself for those who just joined. My name is Emily Resch, and I am the Senior Director for State Organizations for the Public Interest Network, which is a network of nonprofit state-based organizations that includes both the state PIRG groups around the country, as well as the state environment groups affiliated with Environment America, like Environment California, Environment Georgia, and Penn Environment represented here today. The PIRGs have a 50-year legacy of challenging wasteful consumption that harms our health and our planet, starting with successful campaigns to pass bottle bills to encourage recycling of beverage containers in the 70s and 80s. The network of state environment groups that are part of Environment America have built upon and added to that legacy with their own campaigns to value the protection of our wildlife over waste. Notably working successfully to ban single-use plastic bags and other products in a number of states around the country. Unfortunately, we have a long way to go. The United States generates over 30% of the planet's waste, even though we make up just 4% of the population. That averages out to about 7 pounds of material per American every single day. The production of that material consumes precious natural resources and contributes to climate change. And only 1/3 of our waste is recycled or composted, while the vast majority is sent to landfills, incinerators, or the natural environment. We need to take decisive steps to address our growing waste crisis and move to a circular, zero waste economy. And one immediate obvious step we should take is eliminating the unnecessary use of single-use plastics that have become so pervasive in our society and our economy. So the state organizations represented here, along with many, many exceptional allies, have been campaigning for policies to phase out single-use plastics in their communities and make plastic producers responsible for their waste and reuse. This summer, our network is canvassing door to door in 10 states across the country to raise awareness and mobilize support about the need to reduce plastic waste. And we're running campaigns in many other states too. We couldn't do it without the support of our members. So if you're a member of one or more of the groups represented on this call, thank you so much. We also couldn't do it without the hard work of our paid staff and our many, many volunteers. So thank you for the work that you do and the hours that you put in. And lastly, but definitely not least, we couldn't do it without the passionate, persistent elected officials willing to champion this issue, several of whom we have on this call, and we're so honored to have you here today. So thank you. The goal of this call is to highlight various campaigns around the country and to give you a taste of what's happening and how you can get more involved. And we have a lot. So I'm going to try to move this conversation as quickly as I can so that we can hear from everyone. If you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A, the Q&A function in the chat to ask a question of the panelists. We'll try to either respond to you on the call, or one of our staff will try to get back to you after the call with an answer. And I believe we'll be putting in opportunities to take action online on these campaigns, depending on the state you're in as well. But with that, I'm going to get started, and we're going to roughly go from the Northeast, move south and over to the West. And we're going to start with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is Janet Dominick from MassPIRG.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. As Emily said, my name is Janet Dominick, and I am the director of the Massachusetts Public Interest Research Group, MassPIRG. And here in the Bay State, we have beaches, we have lakes, we have mountains, and we have parks. People here love their nature, and they really do not like waste and litter. Unfortunately, more and more of our beautiful places are being inundated with a material that does not biodegrade, is really not recyclable, and builds up in our environment. And that material, of course, is plastic. MassPIRG has a proud history of working on policies to reduce waste, including passing one of the nation's first bottle bills. Today, we're campaigning to expand that bottle bill and much more, like reducing single-use plastics, such as bags and foam. Popular support for these measures can be seen all over our state, as grassroots activists in many municipalities are moving the reduce ball forward. Over 140 cities and towns have banned single-use plastic bags. More than 24 have banned styrene. And with action stalled in the state legislature on expanding the deposit law or bottle bill, a handful of towns have recently banned the sale of plastic bottled water. We know it's well past time to take this progress statewide. And this summer, our Citizen Outreach Canvas team will be knocking on doors across the state to build support for moving Massachusetts beyond plastic. So we are truly grateful that some of our legislators have stepped up and are taking on the big special interests who are working hard to block these reforms. Unfortunately, neither of them could be here today, but I want to thank State Representative Marjorie Decker from my hometown of Cambridge and State Senator Cynthia Cream of Newton, who are among several champions in the legislature passionately pushing for progress on several bills which would reduce plastic pollution and put the Bay State on a more sustainable path for our future. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Janet, for your work and being here. And as you can see in the chat, you can follow Janet and sign up for actions in Massachusetts if you're from Massachusetts. Next, we're going to go to the Garden State and Doug OMalley, the State Director for Environment, New Jersey.
Super. Thank you so much, Emily, and great to hear from Janet in the Bay State. My name is Doug OMalley. I serve as the State Director for Environment New Jersey, and I've been doing this work for more than 20 years in the Garden State. And I'll tell you, we've made a lot of progress over the course of the last 20 years, but it has really accelerated in the last 5 years. And I think that's really a testament to this cultural moment where the public and decision makers are realizing that we are using way too much plastic is being produced, and it's ending up in our environment. And that's having a huge impact. And I'm really proud to talk about the steps that New Jersey has taken over the course of the last few years to move our state forward and to create models for other states. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm incredibly excited to be on this call, is because we've gotten inspiration from states across the country and how to put a wildlife over waste. And we hope that other states get inspiration from our work. I'd be remiss without thanking the work of Senator Bob Smith, who serves as the chairman of our Assembly Environment Committee, as well as Assemblyman John McKeon, who serves as a former chair of the Assembly Environment Committee. Both are stalwart allies and are sorry they can't be here today. But part of the reason we're so excited is that we are in the first month of implementing the strongest state ban on single-use packaging, which I know is a bold statement to make. But we have now implemented a ban on single-use plastic bags, on polystyrene food containers and products, as well as having straws on demand. And then in addition to requiring reusable bags to be used in grocery stores. So phasing out not only plastic bags, but also single-use paper bags as well. And the reason why we're able to take this monumental step is that more than a decade ago, we had cities and towns really start to rally together to work to ban single-use plastics in their communities. And that's because for any of us that have been involved in a river cleanup or in New Jersey for Jersey Shore cleanups, the thing you find the most is single-use plastics. And it is infuriating, and it obviously pollutes our environment, it pollutes our communities, and then ends up even not only in our drinking water, but even in our bodies. And we had testifiers who came to the legislature who work in the medical community saying this is bad for public health as well as bad for the environment. So we've worked with a strong set of allies over the course of the last few years, our members, the environmental community, recyclers and mayors, and even the New Jersey Food Council to work to pass this most comprehensive single-use ban in the country. We obviously had to overcome a lot of efforts to simply put a fee on plastic bags, which is pushed as a last-minute budget fix, or to preempt towns from taking action. And we overcame that because of this overwhelming public support. And I'm proud to say that we also have worked to pass legislation to increase recycled content of single-use plastics, which will require post-consumer recycled content for single-use plastics to be up to 50%, as well as ban the hated plastic packing peanuts. And then now we're working on our next campaign, which is getting more producer responsibility for single-use plastics to work to put the onus on companies that produce these products to use less of them and to pay to recycle them. And we're taking a lot of inspiration from our colleagues in Maine and Oregon and the recent victory in Colorado, and then also bills that have been introduced in New York and Maryland. And we're working right now and knocking on doors across New Jersey to make that happen and build up support in the legislature. So a lot's going on. We're taking inspiration from everybody and hope others can take inspiration from the Garden State. Thank you.
Great, great. Thanks so much, Doug, for your work. Next, we're going to a state known as America in Miniature, the state of Maryland. And we have OMalley Zaskar, the director of Maryland PIRG here today, as well as thank you, Delegate Sarah Love, for joining us as well. And more importantly, being such a champ on this issue. OMalley.
Hi, everyone. My name is OMalley Zaskar. I'm the state director with Maryland PIRG, and I'm based in Baltimore. Maryland is taking big steps to reduce plastic pollution. We were the first state in the country to ban foam food takeout containers, and many communities, including Baltimore City, where I live, have banned single-use plastic bags. So Delegate Sarah Love is joining us today to talk about what's next. She's finishing up her first term representing Montgomery County, Maryland, and has introduced numerous bills on plastics and zero waste, including working with our sister group Environment Maryland to propose the first in the nation bill to restrict plastic to fuel technology. So Delegate Love, thanks for joining us and for all your incredible work that you do for Maryland. Take it away.
Thank you, OMalley, and thank you for all your great work. I couldn't do what I do without you and all of your members and environmental activists. And just a big shout out to all of you on this webinar today. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for legislators to hear from you. And I'll come back to that in a minute. As OMalley said, I am finishing up my first term, and I got involved trying to get rid of single-use plastics, actually from a teenager when I was knocking on doors. And this teenager started talking to me about single-use plastic and straws. And it was sort of something I hadn't really thought about before. And through talking to him and talking to others and researching it and looking at other states, I've really gotten into the policy around single-use plastic and trying to do what I can. I've had a bill for 4 years trying to really flip the paradigm, making certain single-use plastics on demand. That bill unfortunately died. We had industry support on moving from single-use shampoo and conditioner bottles to those big containers, but then COVID hit, so that died. As OMalley mentioned, we took on chemical conversion, which I was really excited about because a lot of people didn't understand and they thought this was a new way to get rid of plastic, not understanding how really dangerous it is. And we elevated the profile on that. Unfortunately, we can't get a bag ban. We, through great efforts by the sponsor, it just won't go through the Senate. But we did ban foam packaging years ago. And then I am working on a truth in labeling bill, which is going to be really important for consumers to understand what they're purchasing. I'm going to pick up the mantle on extended producer responsibility and fold into that a bottle bill that I've had for many years. So continuing the fight against single-use plastic. But as I started with, the most important thing is for all of you to reach out to your legislators. Companies are doing it. They've hired their lobbyists. They are talking to legislators. We need you all to reach out and tell your legislators. And as a state legislator, I can tell you how much it means when my constituents talk to me about it. So thank you for your activism, and I look forward to hearing from everyone else.
Oh, so great. Thanks again, Delegate Love, for being here today and for all of your work. Next, we're going to go to the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, and hear from Faron Savage from Penn Environment and Representative Tim Briggs.
Yeah, thanks, Emily, and thanks everyone for turning out today. I saw a lot of Pennsylvania in the chat, so thank you everyone for showing up. My name's Faron Savage. I'm the Zero Waste Advocate with Penn Environment, based out of Philadelphia. I'm really excited to introduce the work we've been doing and one of our great legislative champs. For the past several years, we've been building support for policies to transform the way we use and think about waste. We've talked with thousands of our members on our door-to-door canvass. We ended the state's preemption against local plastic bag bans. We've won bans and fees on single-use plastic bags covering 15% of Pennsylvanians. And we have an ambitious package of bills in the state legislature called Zero Waste Pennsylvania, which tackles this problem from multiple angles. Representative Tim Briggs has been one of our longtime champs on this effort from Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. He's the lead sponsor for legislation to ban polystyrene foam food products across the state. His support and leadership and the leadership of all our sponsors has been crucial in really shifting the attitudes of Pennsylvanians everywhere on this crucial issue and so many others. So I'm very happy to introduce him here today and turn it over. Representative.
Great, thanks, Faron, and thanks for the group coming together to discuss such an important issue. Like the delegate, I can't encourage enough to contact your legislators. That's the only way we're going to make a difference. The way I got involved in single-use plastics, I do a 5th grade essay contest every year. I got elected in 2008, and the number of essays that I received then regarding, I think it was the Islander trash or the Pacific garbage can or whatever the language was, from young children talking about, you know, all the plastic that we dispose of ending up in the Pacific. I had to Google it. I knew it was a problem. So that was the start of it. Then really what got me interested in or concerned about polystyrene were my own children in schools, in the cafeteria. They received, you know, at lunch, they get the styrofoam tray instead of the plastic, you know, reusable tray that we used to use as kids. They get a styrofoam tray and a styrofoam cup and a styrofoam plate. So we started to approach our local school districts to limit that, and some started to, but that's what got me to introduce the polystyrene ban. As we worked with Penn Environment to grow some support, we decided it was probably great to kind of create this the zero waste PA package of bills, because I had this polystyrene and I supported Jared Solomon's plastic bag bill, and I supported Representative Daley's straw bill, and you know, there was all these great legislators kind of working on their own little things. I should say, you know, we have an extreme Republican legislature. We do have a Democratic governor. So we decided to kind of join forces with Penn Environment and really put the emphasis on the whole package, just to deal with single-use plastics as a societal issue. We have Penn's Woods, you know, William Penn founded Pennsylvania. We have a lot of outdoor recreational areas. The governor started a litter task force, but still not dealing with at the source. So that's where I think we started focusing on the local communities. The Republican legislature put a preemption on that for a 1-year moratorium to study the issue. Penn Environment fought back on that with their allies. And now local communities are once again starting to implement their own ordinances. So it's not going to happen without the public support. As folks say, the special interests are mighty, and they influence a lot of the legislative houses, including in Harrisburg. So that influence can be overcome by great citizen activism. And that is what I'm proud to do with Penn Environment every chance we can to try to highlight the challenges with plastics and microplastics and all the great outreach they do. But today it's just, I'm proud to be with a bunch of inspiring legislators and leaders on such an important issue. So thank you for including me, and thank you, Faron.
That's so great. Thanks again, Representative Briggs, for all you do. Next, we're going to go to the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia, and Ellie Beamer, the State Director for Environment Virginia.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Ellie Beamer. I'm the State Director for Environment Virginia, and I'm really excited to share all of the awesome progress Virginia has made on reducing single-use plastic pollution, as well as all the things we have planned to do about it. So in the past 2 years, Virginia banned the intentional release of balloons into our environment, and we gave localities the authority to place a fee on single-use plastic bags, which was both long time efforts. Just last year, the General Assembly approved a ban on foam cups and takeout containers after hearing from over 50,000 of their constituents, making Virginia just the 6th state to pass such a ban. And so after a series of these wins, we definitely had to ask ourselves what's next. And it was pretty clear that we needed to truly start to hold manufacturers responsible for their role in plastic pollution. And so that's why right now we are working to build support across the Commonwealth to require manufacturers to use less plastic and to be financially responsible for the cost to recycle and manage all of the waste and damage that they do to our environment. And so while we're looking forward to these new policies and building support, we are also currently working to fight for all the progress we have made. 1 week from today, Virginia's General Assembly will be adopting a budget, and currently there is a delay on the foam ban that we passed last year. This would delay the ban for 5 years. So we're currently working to make sure that our legislators protect this bipartisan, wildly popular ban, and our outreach office is leading the effort in doing that and engaging our members in that way as well. So we look forward to continue to protect the progress that we've made, and then look forward to all these new and exciting types of policies that we can adopt here in Virginia to ultimately use less plastic and put wildlife over waste here in Virginia.
Thank you, Ellie. Next, we're going to go to the Tar Heel State, North Carolina, where we have Katie Craig, the State Director for North Carolina PIRG, here today, as well as Representative Julie Mayfield. Thanks so much for being here, Representative Mayfield.
Thanks, Emily, and hello, everyone. Like Emily said, my name is Katie Craig, and I'm the State Director with NC PIRG, coming to you all from Raleigh, North Carolina. And as a North Carolina native, you will often find me bragging about the beauty of our state, you know, from the Outer Banks to the Blue Ridge Mountains. There's a lot to brag about, but plastic pollution and our throwaway economy, unfortunately, litters the beauty of those natural spaces, harms the wildlife that lives in those habitats, and even threatens the health of our own residents. So we've been working to educate the public and build support to push forward step by step with the help of grassroots advocates and organizations, researchers, and of course, great legislative champs. And so with that, I will turn it over to Representative Julie Mayfield, who has sponsored state legislation on this issue, helped to lead the charge to call on the governor to take action here in our state, and also work to support organizing happening locally all across our state as well. Thank you so much for being here, Senator Mayfield.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to be here. Again, my name is Julie Mayfield. I am the senator from one of the senators from Western North Carolina. I represent Asheville and Buncombe County. I am also lucky enough to be, in my other job, the co-director of a regional environmental advocacy group that works on a whole range of environmental issues, including plastics. And my organization called Mountain True is leading the effort in Western North Carolina, and to some degree working with partners across the state on this. So So the first thing I want to say is I am so envious of all of the people who have spoken before me about all the progress that you have made in your states, at the state level, at the local level. We ain't got nothing going on here in North Carolina. I just got to say it like that because that's how it feels. There is no appetite at the state level to do anything. As Katie said, I introduced a bill in the Senate. There was a similar bill introduced in the House, a couple of bills by Republicans, but nothing's going anywhere. There's no appetite for this at all, for any regulation or banning of plastic bags, of styrofoam, of anything. Believe it or not, we actually still use styrofoam cups at the General Assembly. And I have been trying to work with the director of the General Assembly to move on to some other product, but the answer continues to be no. So we are turning our efforts to the local level. Now, North Carolina is a Dillon's rule state. So I predict this will end up in a big old fat fight. But Asheville is getting ready. We have been advocating for a number of months, years, and we believe that Asheville is on the cusp of adopting a plastic bag ban and a fee for paper bags. And there may be one other jurisdiction in Western North Carolina that is prepared to follow us when we do that. So that's exciting. We do anticipate some blowback from either the legislature and or the Retail Merchants Association, either in the form of a lawsuit or next session in the form of a preemptive ban, to make it clear. So I think it's all going to get settled in court, is my prediction. But please, think about us, champion us on. We're kind of starting from scratch, but we're scrappy and we're going to get something done.
Exactly right. I think we've learned in other states that it does work to start at the local level and build out from there. And so I know that there are some legal challenges that you're facing, but I hope I believe that will be successful over time in North Carolina too. I just wanted to note, we've gotten some really good questions in the Q&A function. Some of them we're able to answer on the spot. Some of them we're going to need to get back to you after they'll take a little more time. We have every intention of answering every question that we get either now or after the call is over. So thank you so much. Next, let's go to the Peach State, Georgia, where we have Jeanette Gayer here, the Environment Georgia State Director, as well as Representative Becky Evans. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily, and great to see everyone here with us today. I'm Jeanette Gayer. I'm the State Director of Environment Georgia, coming to you live from our office, which is very close to the Avondale MARTA station for folks joining us from Georgia. This has been, until we got to North Carolina, such an inspiring program. But it is great to see my old friend, Senator Mayfield. Really great to see you. And similar to North Carolina, a lot of our best successes around fighting plastic pollution have been defensive. So a few years ago, we successfully stopped the plastic bag industry and others who were trying to pass legislation that would have made it impossible for cities to do things like ban plastic bags. We very recently stopped the construction of what I understand was going to be the world's largest plastic to fuel facility. So I was really excited to hear about Delegate Love's work. And then we've also worked successfully with cities like Atlanta and Savannah to enact bans on single-use plastic in their own facilities. So we are slowly but surely making progress, but we know we need to do so much more. So UGA scientists recently announced that they had found trillions of very tiny pieces of plastic off the coast of Georgia, which is where some of our 4 species, I think, of sea turtles regularly nest off the coast of Georgia. And we know that increasingly sea turtles and other wildlife are being harmed and even killed by our single-use plastic pollution problem. And so that's why we are this year going door to door in Georgia, talking to people about banning styrofoam, one of the worst types of plastic pollution. Polystyrene foam. We are so excited to continue this work, and when the legislature starts again in January, see what we can make happen, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited to introduce Representative Becky Evans. Representative Evans represents House District number 83 in DeKalb County, and she has done some really impressive work that I'll let her talk about more, reaching across the aisle, figuring out how do you make progress in a state where bipartisanship is very, very important. So Representative Evans, thank you for being here today. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, and thank you so much to PERG. It's so nice to meet all of you. I've lived in my home for 30 years, and I live right by Emory and the CDC, and we're one of the neighborhoods where PERG has canvassed over the years, and so it's so nice to kind of see all this connection. I didn't know Environment Georgia was a part of PERG. I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't really know that. Yes, so you've heard, Georgia is, a trifecta of Republican control, and in the House, it's like 77 Democrats, 103 Republicans, and we have been unfortunately unsuccessful at advancing any bills. Bills have been proposed by my colleagues, to ban straws, ban single-use plastics, and they never make it out of committee. But one thing, when I campaigned in 2018, I was all about reducing single-use plastics, and we only use reusable water bottles. I said, when I get to Capitol, I'm not going to drink out of these disposable water bottles. And we're the home of Coca-Cola, so Coca-Cola gives us all the water, Dasani water bottles and Cokes that we want. So and everyone uses them. And there's in the Capitol, there are very few public water. There's no public water fountain on the main level of where the gallery is. So that was one of my goals, was to see what we could do in the Capitol complex about reducing waste, including single-use plastics. And so this fall, what I did is, we sit all mixed up in the General Assembly, so I've gotten to know my Republican seatmate, and so he and I talked, and there's another Republican that I reached out to, and so we had a bipartisan plan, and it started with, we went to the Condita building, which is Georgia Tech's living building. It's the first building in Georgia to meet the Sustainable Building Challenge, where it basically creates more energy than it uses. And so we had a tour this fall of the Condita building, and it was a bipartisan group of legislators that attended. And the other thing I was proud of is that the gentleman who's head of financing all Georgia buildings, he also came along with the head of Georgia State Properties. So that was like a good first step, and out of that came this a bipartisan urging resolution asking Georgia Building Authority for sustainable building, to create a plan for sustainable building management on the Capitol campus properties. We have 9 properties, and we had very good support, and it made it out of committee with unanimous bipartisan support. But unfortunately, it just kind of didn't advance beyond rules, and it was a very crazy session with redistricting and all that, and there are a lot of things that did not advance. So I've been told it wasn't, it wasn't, that they're against this, and that and Georgia Building Authority says they want to do all these things we were talking about. So we'll see. I don't have any power over them or anything, but it's a good first step, and I absolutely look forward to working more with Environment Georgia and other organizations to advance this. And yes, and I also want to say I'm kind of becoming more involved with the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, NCEL, and we had a Southern Regional Conference here in Atlanta Friday and Saturday, and that was very positive. And Senator Mayfield, I got to know your colleague Pricey Harrison some, and Natasha, what's Natasha's last name? Garvey, I think, or Marcus, thank you. Yeah. So anyway, I think this is a wonderful opportunity. I'm taking all these notes. I'm going to try to get my Republican colleagues to do a river cleanup. Let's see if we can do that. Maybe then they can lay their eyes on this. Let's see what we can do. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to see folks fighting in the belly of the beast. Next, we're going to hop over to the Midwest, and we're joined today by Paloma, who is the works with Environment Illinois on their campaign to ban foam in Chicago and the state of Illinois.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Paloma Paez-Coom. I'm an associate with Environment Illinois, and I'm based in Chicago. And I'm really excited to be able to talk about the part that Illinois is playing in this incredible, just national movement for the circular economy. I think we've seen increasingly plastic is being recognized as more than just a coastal issue. So it's really impacting us here in the Midwest, especially as it makes its way into our Great Lakes. I grew up in Michigan. I live in Chicago now. And as a lifelong Midwesterner, I can just say that there's so much public will to protect our Great Lakes and rivers and all these amazing natural resources from plastic pollution. So here in Illinois, we're working to tackle this problem by banning some of the worst forms of single-use plastics. And then we're also just looking ahead towards actually holding manufacturers accountable for the plastic they produce. Over the last year, we've been building support to ban single-use foam cups and takeout containers here in Illinois, which, as you've heard by now, are just some of the most common and worst forms of plastic pollution. So last summer, we knocked on 20,000 doors to build support for that campaign. And then following that push, we won a committee vote for our bill, and we're also able to pass a bill banning the procurement of foam foodware by state government agencies. So we're continuing to build on our momentum from last year. We're working to pass that statewide ban on foam cups and takeout containers this year. And this summer, we're going door to door to push that campaign across the finish line. In just the last 2 weeks that we have been out walking through neighborhoods, knocking on doors, our staff have already talked to 2,000 people in the area. And over the course of the summer, that's going to add up to us having 15,000 face-to-face conversations with Illinoisans about how we can stop plastic pollution. And then in the next year, we're also just looking ahead towards the next steps after we ban some of those worst types of plastic. So we'll be working on a bill to hold producers accountable for the plastic they produce next year as well. So I'm just really proud and excited to be working on moving beyond plastic here in Illinois and to see all the progress that we're going to be able to make towards that this summer.
Great. Thanks so much, Paloma, and good luck with all the outreach that you're doing this summer. Next, we're going to actually jump to the state of Washington, where we have Nicole Walter, who is the state advocate for Washburg, as well as Representative Liz Berry here today, talking about what's happening in the Evergreen State.
Thank you so much, Emily. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Walter, and I'm the Washburg advocate. I'm based in Seattle. And I just feel so fortunate to live in the beautiful Puget Sound in our Evergreen State with literally tens of thousands of miles of waterways right in our backyard. It's just such a great reminder why we need to fight every day to tackle plastic pollution. And we've definitely made a lot of progress. Just last year, we passed one of the nation's strongest plastic pollution reduction bills in the country to phase out foam, require more recycled plastic content in our products, and so much more. And just this past fall, we saw our statewide single-use plastic bag ban finally go into effect. And now we need to hold producers responsible for the waste they create. So I'm really excited to introduce Representative Liz Berry, big champion in the Washington State Legislature for protecting our environment and tackling plastic pollution. So Representative Berry, on behalf of Washburg and Environment Washington, thank you so much for being here and all that you do.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for inviting me to be here today. It's so nice to see everyone. My name's Liz Berry. I represent Northwest Seattle in the Washington State Legislature. So if you think of the Space Needle, my district is in the shadow of the Space Needle. I was elected in 2020, and my district cares deeply about reducing plastic waste, combating climate change, and doing everything we can to protect our beautiful Puget Sound, which is literally right out my window. I can't quite see it from here, but it's just right there in front of me. I'm also the mom of 2 young kids. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old son, George, cares deeply about cleaning up our oceans. In fact, he wants to be a firefighter scuba diver when he grows up. So this is very important to him and his future career plans. In 2021, I was so proud to work with my Senate partner, Senator Mona Doss, to pass groundbreaking legislation to reduce plastic pollution. Here in Washington, like you heard from Nicole, we've done a lot on the bans for single-use plastics, but we went farther in 2021 by banning styrofoam, making single-use plastics from restaurants opt-in only, which is huge, especially with COVID takeout going on, and setting a minimum recycled content for beverages, personal care, cleaning, and trash bags, which was a big fight. So all of you who are fighting the fights, we have it here too in Washington. And I was really proud to work on these bills because my son George was proud of me, and that made me really proud that we could do that for our future. So our bills in 2021 sent the strongest policy in America on recycling and reducing plastic pollution, and a huge step towards environmentally friendly packaging. So what's next for Washington? Well, you better believe I am all over the extended producer responsibility legislation. We had a bill this session. It got completely held up by industry, as all of you have told that story. I'm very motivated to bring that again next session. And then also I'm looking at a bottle deposit system here in Washington. So we have Oregon to the south of us has one, BC to the north of us has one. They have different systems. I'm going to be touring those this summer to see if it's something that we could do here in Washington. But the more and more I learn about deposit systems, the more excited I am about them, because those bottles go right back into reuse and right back into the systems instead of into our landfills and into our oceans. So thank you so much for having me. I would love to collaborate with all of you on what you're working on. And if you want any tips about what we've been able to do here in Washington, feel free to reach out to me and Nicole, but keep up the good fight. We need everyone out there on the ground working on this great work. So thank you.
That sounds so great. And man, isn't it fun to think about starting your life and thinking what you want to become and coming up with cool ideas like your son. So again, we're going to actually shift back to back east a little bit to Colorado, the Centennial State, where we have Rex Wilmot, the Policy Director for Environment Colorado, here today, as well as Representative Lisa Cutter, who just got a bill through the Colorado legislature a couple weeks ago on producer responsibility. Thanks.
Thank you, Emily. Hi, everyone. My name is Rex Wilmoth, and I am the Senior Program Director. I'm the Senior Program Director for Environment Colorado. I just want to real quickly talk about two of the great successes that we've had over the last 2 years. And it's by building, coalitions, going out there and canvassing, going door to door, talking to members, being able to get people to actually call into the legislature and help build this great support that we've had. Last year, we were able to ban plastic bags and styrofoam cups and had a great success on that. And then this year, we were able to build off of that success and pass the producer responsibility bill to reduce packaging and increase recycling here in Colorado. And the Representative Lisa Cutter was our champion on both these bills and has done a great job. And she's going to tell a little bit of a story about how we've actually been able to win here in Colorado. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Representative Cutter. And thank you very much for being on this on your vacation in Hawaii.
Well, you too. It's important. Thank you so much, Rex. Yeah, we both are vacationing, but I was so excited to be able to come and chat with y'all today. First, I just want to say everyone has been such an inspiration. It's great hearing about all these success stories from around the country and all the energy around this. It's really awesome. And it's also makes me a little bit sick to hear that there's still such a problem. And, so we still have a lot to work to do, obviously. But let's see, I came to the legislature 4 years ago. I was elected as a state representative and came intending to do something about zero waste. And after my first term, I applied to get an interim committee. It's a process where you can have a study committee to look at a particular issue and see if you can come up with some solutions. So that's really where we dove in and tried to go all throughout the state and see more about the problem of waste in our state and possible solutions. So a lot of it has sort of been built over the last several years. A lot of these successes have kind of come because of the groundwork we've laid in that area. so yeah, as Rex said, one of the bills was the plastic, reducing plastic bags and styrofoam, which I'm really excited about. We also did what we call the Circular Economic Development Center, and that's going to work really nicely with the bill that we just passed, the producer responsibility bill, to, with the producer responsibility, where we're making, I think you all on this call are probably familiar with what that is, making producers accountable and responsible for paying for the trash, the pollution that they produce. And then with that, we'll be able to provide recycling to every corner of the state. That's a part of the bill, is that we will, every single residential apartment or home will have recycling available to them. So when we have, and at no cost, no cost to be borne by the consumer. And so when we have the feedstock, it's not being, buried in landfills, hundreds of millions of dollars of valuable materials buried in landfills, then we'll be able to create this circular economy. And we have this development center all set up and ready to go, coming on board in a couple of years as well. So I'm really excited about all those things. And the most important thing that I want to say here, is to Rex's point, is that this was done because we had a robust coalition and we had a lot of support from all kinds of communities throughout Colorado. Environment Colorado was a huge asset in reaching out to people and engaging with students. We had a very thoughtful campaign. We started planning this. Well, as I said, the seeds have been planted for the last several years, but really started planning this particular piece, the producer responsibility legislation, last summer. And it had weekly calls and campaign calls. And I know we had a very, very robust coalition, and everyone was out doing their part and rallying folks and raising attention. We had a lot of letters to the editor, op-eds, all kinds of media appearances, every single thing that we could do to advocate for this outside of the building, because we knew that inside of the building we were going to have a real fight, and we did. We did have a real fight. It was rough. I may have cried a lot this past session. They were beating us up. There was some really strong opposition from industry, and so it really was a heavy lift. And if we did not have all the partners working together and making calls, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, just most recently, it still hasn't been signed yet, but we're optimistic it's going to be signed. I don't have any reason to doubt that. But even up a couple weeks ago, right after session ended, there was, because we just ended May 11th, there was talk that the governor might not sign this. And I was getting calls and emails, and we all advocated. I think that the coalition came together, all the partners came together and just hammered the governor's office with calls and emails and letters, and they asked us to stop, actually. So that is what I want you to know. That's the takeaway: the power of people advocating and working for something together that is so important to our communities. That's what really makes a difference. And that's why I've been so proud to be part of this coalition and part of all these Environment Colorado and COPERG and all these great organizations doing wonderful things. We, as legislators, we cannot do it without you. So thank you. It's just a real honor to be able to speak to y'all today and hear all these great stories.
So great. It's always a point of pride when we get to the point where a governor or other decision maker says, can you please stop? We got the message. People care about this issue. So nice work to Environment Colorado and COPERG and all of the groups that have been working with you on that issue. So great. We have 2 more states left in our journey for work around plastic pollution across the country. Next, I'm going to go to the Golden State, to California, my home state. We have Jen Engstrom here, from the State Director for CalPERG, and we were just joined by Assemblymember Laura Friedman, who's coming off of a busy day of floor votes in the California State Legislature to talk about her bill in the legislature right now. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Emily. So yes, my name is Jen Engstrom, and I am the State Director for CalPERG, our public interest group in California. Here in California, we have beautiful beaches, lakes, rivers, and we want to protect our beautiful places and communities from the harms of plastic pollution. And that's why CalPERG and our partners at Environment California have helped to get our state to be the first to ban single-use plastic grocery bags back in 2014, leading other states and cities across the country to follow. But we need to do a lot more in our state still. And that's why we're working this year with Assemblymember Laura Friedman to phase out the unnecessary and unacceptable use of single-use plastic used in online retail. Things like foam, peanuts, and bubble wrap and plastic envelopes that seem to pile up every time we buy something online. And we're really grateful to have Assemblymember Friedman's leadership working to tackle this problem in California. I want to thank her for taking a moment out of a very busy week to speak with us about the importance of tackling plastic pollution in our state. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you all here. I actually just stepped off the floor. We are in session right now voting, and I've been working hard trying to get enough votes to pass this bill through. It's a very common sense approach to the e-waste, the growing e-commerce waste problem, which is filling up our landfills, causing a lot of increased expense, financial expense for our constituents, and of course, ecological devastation for the planet. And the amount of plastic that's being shipped around the world is completely unsustainable and also unnecessary, because we know that there are sustainable replacements. And where we lag in sustainable replacements will only be filled with R&D and investor dollars if we have the policies that show that we are going to heavily regulate this and that we're not going to accept plastic being shipped into our communities. So I have a bill that will phase plastic waste out from e-commerce shipping. Last year, this bill failed by a couple of votes on the California in the California legislature. I'm guardedly optimistic that we can get it through this year, but it's been a real battle. We've been doing a lot of work with industry. We've been narrowing the bill, trying to find a way to account for some of the more difficult to ship products like large electronics, while still making sure that this is a powerful bill. I hope that it passes. It can serve as a model for the rest of the nation. California is the world's 5th largest economy, so this will make a huge difference and make ripples around the world. But we have to send those strong signals to industry and to the market about coming up with sustainable replacements if we're going to be an e-commerce society. So I thank CalPERG for all of your work. I thank all of you, US Against Plastics, all of the other legislators who are fighting the good fight around the country. And thanks so much again for having me.
Thank you so much. And then it is an important week. So we just threw a petition in the chat. If you're from California, do sign to let your legislator know to vote on this important bill. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And good luck in the next couple of days. Whip up those final votes that we need. Last but not least, we're going to head to the state of Oregon, where we're going to, the Beaver State, I should call it. We have Celeste Mayfrin-Swango here, the State Director for Environment Oregon, and Senator Janine Solomon, who's been the legislative champ on this issue. Thanks so much for being here and bringing us.
Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Celeste Mayfrin-Swango. I'm the State Director with Environment Oregon, based in Portland. I'm so thrilled to be here today and see so many brilliant advocates and elected leaders who are tackling the issue of plastic pollution. Here in Oregon, we have taken big steps in recent years to reduce plastic waste, including banning single-use plastic grocery bags at retail stores and restaurants statewide, and passing the nation's second ever producer responsibility bill for packaging and paper products. Next, we're setting our sights on phasing out polystyrene foam foodware, requiring utensils be provided upon request, and more. And we are knocking on doors this summer to build public support that we're going to need to make that happen. And for the past few years, one name has made its way onto every single bill addressing plastic pollution in Oregon, and that's Senator Janine Solomon, who's with us here today. Senator Solomon, on behalf of Environment Oregon and OSPERG, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all you do for Oregon's environment.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much. I'm joining you from the beautiful state of Oregon with 362 miles of amazing public beaches. I represent Senate District 15 in Oregon, which is Silicon Forest to family farms. And I'm a mom and I'm a Mima to a 1.5-year-old grandson. So all that we are talking about today are issues that I care about. And I want to thank the environmental advocates and the legislative colleagues from across the US that are here today. I've been busily taking notes. It's so critical that we continue to elevate the message of breaking free from plastics and reducing the growing production. Look, I get it. Breaking up is hard to do, but when a relationship is toxic and it's bad for you, It needs to be done. Currently, we know that only 9% of the plastic waste is recycled. The rest end up in our landfills, in our water, in our soil, in our air, and eventually in us. So think of this, if your favorite sports team only filled 9% of their stadium on game days, they would be looking for solutions real quick to fill the stands. If only 9% of your son's or daughter's senior class was graduating, we would be all hands on deck to help kids succeed and help them walk across that stage. So my point is that 9% rate is abysmal and we must do better, but we cannot recycle our way out of this plastic pollution. We must look for ways to not create the waste in the first place. And I've been working on legislation to address the issue since joining the legislature in 2017. And we're moving the dial in Oregon alongside students and champion legislative and environmental partners. So in 2019, we banned the single-use plastic bag at checkout. And I want to just add to Senator Mayfield, keep up the fight, because 17 city ordinances is how it all started with the bag ban in Oregon. And I hear your frustration in the chat, Adam and Rachel, about the thicker bags. So we also made straws available upon request. And I love the conversation here today about the role that our youth play in this work, because I worked on the bag bill with our local Hillsborough Youth Advisory Council students. And the straw bill, that was a big issue for fourth graders in my district. So just this last year, Oregon became the second in the nation to adopt the Extended Producer Responsibility Program that will make those producers pay. And it will incentivize them to use better material. And when they pay for the waste, that incentive will lead to innovation. So we're not done in Oregon. I recently heard from 500 students here in my district that have asked for positive change and ban polystyrene foam. We will be working on a comprehensive foodware policy and that bans single-use plastic foodware, and are looking for changes in polystyrene foam usage too. Chemical recycling, as it's been pointed out, is known to have impacts to our health and should not and cannot be deemed a solution. We're also ready to take on the right to repair movement here in Oregon. So remember, it is reduce, reuse, then recycle. So preventing the waste from being created in the first place will get us closer to those goals. These changes will really take all of us together and making a concerted effort to use less plastic in our lives. So good policy can breed positive change and change those behaviors and bring good education. I'm committed to continuing to push us forward here in Oregon, and I stand ready to work with you doing the same work. Remember, there are strength in numbers. Thank you so much.
What a great note to end on. Especially those 500 letters from young people. We did it. I honestly was nervous we'd be able to get through 12 states in an hour, and we did it. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much to the elected officials who made time out of their day to come and speak to all of us today. So Delegate Sarah Love from Maryland, Representative Tim Briggs from Pennsylvania. We had Representative Julie Mayfield from North Carolina, Representative Becky Evans from Georgia, Representative Lisa Cutter from Colorado, Assemblymember Laura Friedman from California, Senator Janine Solomon from Oregon, and Representative Liz Berry from Washington. I know you can't hear me, but a round of applause for those elected officials who, again, have putting a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears into moving progress forward on this issue in states around the country. And I do this work in part because I do believe, there are federal bills that have been introduced in Congress. There are some policies that the Biden administration can enact themselves, but I believe for the kind of change that we need on this issue, we need local government and we need state government to lead the way and show us what's possible. So I think this is where the work really comes in. And I'm so proud to be a part of this group of volunteers, of supporters, of staff, and I saw some coalition partners as well in the chat, folks from As You Sow, Audubon Society, the Last Beach Cleanup, and I'm sure there's more of you on the call that I didn't identify. So this does take a village, and I'm so proud to be a part of it with all of you. So thanks so much for joining. Take action, continue to support the work as you can so that we can win.